Long before satellites, drone swarms, and algorithmic targeting, there was a military move so effective that armies relied on it for centuries. It reshaped front lines, toppled commanders, and rewrote entire campaigns in a matter of hours. And yet, by the mid-20th century, it was banned outright. Not because it stopped working, but because it worked too well. Even today, modern forces quietly train to defend against it, knowing that one slip can crumble an entire battlefield. In the next minute, I want to take you into that world, into a tactic that every historian knows, every commander fears, and every modern strategist secretly studies. If you're the kind of viewer who digs beneath the surface of history, who appreciates the difference between myth and method, then this is one of those tactics that explains far more than it hides. The move we're talking about is targeted decapitation of command, carried out through infiltration teams, disguised units, and deep penetration operatives whose sole objective was to eliminate or isolate leadership before the main battle even began. In a war of thousands, this tactic focused on removing only a handful of people. But those few individuals were the hinges on which entire armies turned. Strike them at the right second, and the enemy's ability to coordinate, maneuver, or even understand the battlefield collapsed instantly. The reason such actions were eventually banned under international law was not moral outrage. It was the unavoidable destabilization that followed. Entire regions went leaderless in an instant. Civilians had no authority to communicate with. Negotiations collapsed before they started. Armies, suddenly headless, fought blindly and chaotically. Warfare became unpredictable, uncontrollable, and often far bloodier. Throughout history, generals have understood that leadership, not numbers, wins battles. Remove the general, and the army becomes a body without a mind. During the Napoleonic Wars, small cavalry detachments repeatedly attempted to cut through lines to reach commanders. In the First World War, trench-raiding parties hunted officers in pre-dawn darkness to weaken morale before larger offensives. And in the modern era's shadow operations, small teams were deployed to compromise command posts, cut communication nodes, or neutralize key staff officers. What made the tactic devastating wasn't just the death or capture of leaders. It was the paralysis that followed. Units waited for orders that would never come. Reinforcements froze because they didn't know whether to advance or retreat. Force multipliers like artillery, armour and air power couldn't coordinate. You know, a single strike against a commander could neutralize multiple divisions simply by shutting down their operational nerve centre. But, well, this same effectiveness created chaos that spilled far beyond the battlefield. Without central authority, occupied zones descended into disarray. Ceasefires became impossible. Humanitarian corridors couldn't be negotiated, and in the eyes of the international community, this tactic took warfare into a realm too anarchic to control. That's why, over time, treaties and conventions eventually restricted or banned its use, especially when it involved disguised soldiers or infiltration units operating without clear identification. Even though direct leadership elimination is restricted today, its spirit survives in updated forms. Cyber attacks now target communications, not commanders. Electronic warfare shuts down decision-making systems while leaving personnel intact. Psychological operations aim directly at officer morale, seeding doubt and confusion at key moments. Modern militaries know that the principle remains unchanged. Disrupt the mind, and the body of the army falters. You see this in conflict after conflict. Drone strikes against headquarters, precision attacks on command vehicles, and cyber disruptions targeting logistics nodes all mirror the old decapitation tactic. The tools have changed. The logic remains identical. The tactic still wins wars because it attacks the one thing no force can function without coordinated leadership. This is where the lesson extends beyond military history. The band tactic teaches something universal about systems. Centralized control is both powerful and fragile. When one person holds all the knowledge, all the direction, and all the decisions, the entire system becomes dependent on that single point. That's why ancient armies, businesses, and even exploration expeditions often collapsed the moment a leader went down. Survivalists learn from this by distributing responsibilities. A group that relies on one navigator, one medic, or one decision-maker is always one crisis away from collapse. The practical application is simple but critical. Everyone must know the plan, the map, the fallback routes, and the emergency steps. In a leadership role, whether in a company or community, you build resilience by ensuring others can assume your responsibilities if needed. Redundancy is the antidote to decapitation. A historical example comes from the Second World War. You see, units that trained all non-commissioned officers in command tasks were far more likely to maintain cohesion when officers were killed. Civilian organizations mirror this today. The most resilient teams operate through shared knowledge, not hierarchical bottlenecks. That's the real value of studying band tactics, to see where others fell, and to avoid repeating the same vulnerability. No matter how advanced modern warfare becomes, no matter how digital the battlefield grows, leadership remains the beating heart of every operation. And the tactic designed to sever that heartbeat, though outlawed, still remains a shadow cast over every conflict. It explains why headquarters are hardened, why commanders rarely stay in one location for long, and why militaries build redundant communication systems. Understanding this move gives us a clearer view of history's turning points and today's strategic decisions. It reminds us that wars aren't won solely by firepower, but by protecting the fragile threads of coordination that hold armies together. If you value deep historical insight like this, make sure you subscribe to In the Beginning and share this episode with others who appreciate serious military history. There's more to uncover, and together we'll keep pulling back the curtain on the tactics that shaped the world.